All right, today we're going to get into a fascinating medical mystery. Seriously, it's a story about a chain reaction, a broken lock, and how fixing just one little thing at the very beginning can cause an entire system to heal itself. We are talking about polycystic ovary syndrome, or PCOS, and a treatment that, on the surface, makes absolutely no sense. And that brings us to our big question for today. How in the world is a drug designed for diabetes, Metformin, one of the most common and effective treatments for a hormonal condition that affects fertility? I mean, it seems like a total mismatch, right? But stick with me, because by the end of this, you'll see the connection isn't just there, it's incredibly direct.
Okay, so let's jump right in. To understand why the solution works, we first have to really understand the problem. And it all boils down to one of the most basic things our bodies do: how our cells get energy. It all starts with this really simple, kind of beautiful system. Just imagine your cells are like little houses with locked doors. And outside, you've got glucose, that's sugar, the fuel that runs your body, waiting to get in. Well, insulin is the key. It slides into the lock on the cell's door, turns it, and lets that glucose right in, so the cell can get to work. Simple, right? It's how we're supposed to function.
But here's where the problem starts. This slide lays it out perfectly. On the left, you've got the normal system. The insulin key fits the lock just fine. But on the right, in a body with PCOS, that lock is basically rusty. The key doesn't work so well anymore. So what does the body do? The pancreas, which makes the insulin, just starts flooding the system with more keys, hoping that if it sends enough of them, one is bound to work and force that lock open. So this whole rusty lock situation, it has a name. It's called insulin resistance. It's the official term for when your cells just stop listening to insulin properly. This puts your pancreas into overdrive, and that massive flood of extra insulin, that is the first domino that's about to get knocked over, triggering a huge chain reaction.
So what's the big deal with all this extra insulin? Well, it doesn't just float around harmlessly. It kicks off this cascade of problems all through the body, a chain reaction that we eventually come to know as PCOS.
You can really picture it as 4 dominoes lined up. The very first one to fall is that insulin resistance we just talked about. That then crashes into the second domino, causing way too many androgens. That in turn knocks over the third, messing up the signals from the brain, and that leads to the final domino falling, stalled follicles in the ovaries. So let's look at each.
So dominoes 1 and 2. That flood of insulin acts like a huge blaring signal directly to the ovaries, and what it tells them is, hey, start pumping out more androgens, which you might know as male hormones. This completely throws off the delicate hormonal symphony that's needed for a healthy cycle. So, what does this androgen overload actually do? This quote just says it all. Think of the androgens as weeds growing in a garden. And the tiny developing egg follicles, they're the delicate little seedlings. The weeds just completely choke them out, stopping them from growing the way they're supposed to.
Okay, so domino 3, with the whole hormonal environment in complete chaos, the body's command center, the pituitary gland in the brain, gets totally confused. It's supposed to be sending these super precise, perfectly timed signals to the ovaries to run the whole show. But now, the lines are crossed. It starts sending the wrong messages at all the wrong times.
And this is a huge deal. Get this. Somewhere between 40 and 50% of women with PCOS have constantly high levels of something called luteinizing hormone, or LH. Now, LH is the signal that's supposed to surge just once to kick off ovulation. But when it's always high, it's like a starting gun that just keeps misfiring over and over. A proper ovulation just never happens.
And all of this leads us to the final domino. Getting hit with all those androgen weeds and confused by the brain's messed up signals, the follicles just stall out. They get stuck when they're really small, around 5 to 8 millimeters, and they just can't grow up and mature. And that collection of tiny, stuck follicles is actually where the name polycystic, which means many cysts, comes from.
So let's just step back and look at this whole system in chaos. As you can see here, it's a clear line. The initial problem of insulin resistance leads straight to way too many androgens. That hormonal mass causes broken brain signals, especially that high LH. And the final result, arrested follicles. Every single part of the cycle is broken, all because that very first domino fell.
So, how in the world do you fix a chain reaction like this? Well, the smartest way isn't to run around trying to fix every single problem one by one. The most elegant solution is to go all the way back to the beginning and just stop that first domino from ever falling. And that is exactly where metformin comes in. Metformin basically comes in with a brilliant 3-point attack. First, it tells the liver to calm down and stop making so much extra glucose. Second, and this is the absolute key, it helps fix that rusty lock on the cells, making them sensitive to insulin again. And on top of that, it also seems to have its own direct, helpful effect on the ovaries too.
By making the body's cells actually listen to insulin properly again, the pancreas can finally take a break. It doesn't have to work overtime, flooding the system with insulin just to get the job done. The insulin levels go back to normal. That first domino is stood right back up. The chain reaction is broken at its source.
So what happens when you stand that first domino back up? In this last section, we're going to see how the entire system just starts to fix itself. It's pretty amazing. And here it is, the after picture. With the insulin now normalized because of metformin, the whole chain reaction just reverses itself. You can see it here. The crazy androgen levels go down. The brain signals get back to normal, and the follicles can finally start growing again. You take the pressure off that first point, and every other part starts to function the way it's supposed to.
Just think it through one more time. Insulin levels are normal, so the ovaries stop getting that signal to produce tons of androgens. The weeds die back. With the hormones balanced again, the brain signals become clear and correct. And finally, in this healthy, balanced environment, the follicles are free to do their job, to grow, mature, and lead to ovulation. The system literally heals itself from the top down.
So there you have it. The puzzle is solved. Metformin isn't some random fertility drug. It's so effective for PCOS because it treats the actual root cause, insulin resistance. And it really leaves us with a powerful final question, doesn't it? If targeting the true source of a problem can be this powerful for this one condition, just imagine what other complex medical mysteries we could solve by always looking for that very first domino.